Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome to Monza for the Invictus Racing League's top tier round 12 of our 16th season here for the Italian Grand Prix, including a diving straight into one-shot qualifying. We will do our best to select the top car during qualifying. My name is Webbo, here to take you through tonight's proceedings, joined as ever by JP. Quick hello, JP.
Good evening, Webbo. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. We will do our best to try and live with the fastest driver in one shot, but it can be a little bit of a mad scramble to get everything organised for the sake of the stream, and then we will go straight into sprint qualifying setup, sprint race. I don't know what to call it anymore, JP.
One shot quali, sprint race, feature race. I think it's the easiest way of doing it.
Great. Well, we should be able to join the fastest driver straight away. No, we're going to wait in the pits while they get their setups on. Okay, that buys us a minute or two. So in the lull between sessions, we will take you through the championship standings. But we do, I believe, enter the race with 3 to go, including 12, 13, 14, 15, 4 to go, including this one. And we have a three-way battle for the top of the championship. The big question really is how long can Ghost hang on by the fingernails, I think.
Yeah, obviously Nick's leading the way on entries tonight by 3 points to Ghost after the Netherlands, and obviously Cameron Searle a further 8 points behind Ghost, so it's definitely not over. As I say, until the fat lady sings, but yeah, so 4 races. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in reality, in laps and time, it's still quite a long way left in this season. Absolutely,
we might want to change it to the plus size lady at the moment as to whether they're singing or not. But it's bright sunshine in Monza right now. I think we should have dry setup for one-shot qualifying at very least. Good evening if you're just joining us. Good evening to AJ or ARL, who is already in with the first comment because he couldn't be in necessarily with the first out of the pits as his want. But good evening if you're joining us. Let us know throughout the session tonight who you're here to support and what you're seeing. If you've got questions or if you're noticing something, obviously let us know. And if you feel like a shout out, do say hello to us. We've just got a few seconds left. JP, are we looking at the likely lads here for getting a provisional pole?
You have to think so, but with one shot, obviously you overstep the mark just a little bit and invalidate your lap. You're at the back of the grid, so if they're going to do it, they got to make sure it's clean.
Absolutely. I'll be trying to keep an eye on the likes of Nick, Buxton, Cameron Searle, Ghost even, although qualifying this season hasn't been the best for him. Here we go then. Let's join on board as we try to scroll up whoever is fastest right now. I will choose Nick perhaps to start with and see how things settle as we go bombing down then towards the Rettifilio for the first time. JP.
Yeah, since the rest video, the first chicane, pretty awkward on the exit really. Got to be third gear at least on the way out. Curva Grande, absolutely flat. So Nick Buxton currently leading the way at the moment into the Della Roggia chicane. Hit the brakes, it's quite late actually. I'm on board with Merckx and that's nice and late on the brakes, and well done for the Della Roggia. Lesmo won a slightly later apex than normal corners, obviously 6th gear with the mid traction. Lesmo 2. Down 1 gear, hit a little bit of curb, use a touch of outcurve on the outside. Got to be careful, the car can spin. Down through this DRS, only effectively the second one of the lap in reality. Into Ascari, between 150 might be a braking point. Flick it left, flick it right, flick it left, 6th gear out again. Another place to watch out for spins.
And there's a Tirac retirement.
And Tirac, both Cameron Searle and Tirac. Parabolica, I know it's been renamed, but it's always going to be Parabolica to most race fans. 5th gear, just get it nice in. Drift it out wide initially, but bring it back in to give yourself the shortest run to the line. I think Nick Buxton takes pole from Merckx in second.
And Ghost with third, Jasper in fourth, but disaster striking for Ryan, Tirac and Cameron of course, all is not lost, because they will have the opportunity to move forward as many places as possible during the sprint. But props go straight away to our new championship leader, Nick Jewston, on pole.
Yeah, so this is the grid for the sprint race. Obviously, 9-lap sprint race first. So Nick Jewston lines up alongside Merckx. Ghost just 1,000th of a second behind Merckx there in third as he starts row 2 with Jasper alongside. ARL and Luke Bailey row 3. Row 4, Reshka and Speed Queen. Row 5, Owen and Martin, the tier 2 row there. Ryan and Ryan de Pivine in row 6. Tirac and Cameron will start on the 7th row after failing to set a time and crashing out effectively. Ryan, also another T2 driver, so the 3 tier 2 drivers at the back of the classified finishers.
Wow, so absolutely intriguing, especially for that second position with 1,000th separating reigning champion Ghost from Merckx. ARL did well as well in 5th. I know qualifying hasn't necessarily been his forte in the last couple of seasons, but showing very well in one-shot qualifying. Just goes to show, I think, when you've got the reps in, the risk level drops off considerably, and I think it definitely rewards those who have done plenty of practice, JP.
It does, but the thing is, I think, especially when we've seen with Cameron Sir on that lap, obviously we didn't see exactly what happened to him, but I don't think he shies away from practice, I can tell you that much. But even if you do a lot of practice, you're pushing the car to the limit so much so that sometimes you do just overstep the mark just a little bit, and obviously that tiny overstep over the mark is just enough to make that difference of staying on or crashing out.
Absolutely. Well, it is seconds away then from launching straight into our sprint. We will, I imagine, JP, most drivers will be electing for mediums, would they, for this sprint, or is anyone going to try the softs?
You could. We did have someone go for the softs yesterday. Obviously, it depends if you think how big a chance of safety car there is. If you think there's a high chance of it, you could get away with a soft compound tyre. The softs will do 9 laps, but they are very, very unhealthy if the whole race is green flag. They're not very nice near the end, but they will do the distance.
Yeah, totally. We have got customary lengthy delay here just to build the tension. And if you're watching with us, give us your podium predictions then for the sprint, and we'll re-predict, I think, for the feature race. Everybody, last preparations being made before we know that. We'll get the nod from Reshka, and that appears to have happened. So just a few seconds remaining. In terms of predictions, JP, who do you fancy for the sprint?
Well, I mean, you can't face away from facts of Nick Jewston, Merckx at the front there. I think Ghost obviously on the tail. I think it's going to be one of those 3 on initial look, but anything can happen around Monza. It's obviously low wings and mistakes can happen. Let's
hope nobody goes bowling into the Rettifilio for the first corner, but we're underway then, under starters' orders. The lights are building, the excitement builds as we get ready to go, and it is drop the clutch and go away from the start. The guys nice and smooth away from the start there, with Nick Jewston just cutting across slightly. McLaren of Ghost already up alongside and looking to challenge around the outside. He hits those sausage curbs across the inside, loses grip considerably, and is dropping down the order as he builds his speed, and it's going to cost him all the way through to the next major braking zone at the Della Roggia. But Jasper managed to sneak back into the position into 3rd place ahead of Ghost, and as we run down the order, the drivers just actually spacing out slightly here through but there's a mistake from the Williams there, I think, of Luke Bailey releasing Ryan and ARL, who has dropped down considerably from that start. JP, anything you noticed from the start at all?
Yeah, ARL went round at the first chicane. I don't know if he was helped along, but there was a big bunching in the Rettifilio, so not quite sure what to make of that. But otherwise, Tirac just got past Martin down straight up towards Ascari. But it's as we kind of expected, Nick Jewston leads the way from Merckx. And Jasper not too far behind on this occasion. Remember, top 5 score points in the sprint.
Absolutely, and 6 places gained for both Ryan and for Cameron Searle, who managed to navigate that melee at the start very, very well indeed. Merck, though, very close behind the Alfa Romeo here of Nick Jewston, as Ghost is in the McLaren, right hot on the heels of Jasper's Haas, and then almost going for it into the first chicane, but no major moves and no major spills either at this early stage. It's only 2 laps in to a 9-lap sprint, and we'll have a quick look at tyre strategies. A couple of drivers have gone for the softs, and this perhaps explains JP why Ghost is in the hurry, and unusually for him, he's looking aggressive at the start of a stint.
Yeah, both McLaren's Speed Queen. I mean, Speed Queen are not. Let's face it, we're not really going to be too surprised with Speed Queen trying this soft strategy. But the 2 McLarens also on the softs. Now, the other thing that comes to mind with this sort of strategy is not only obviously they're going to want to get past people early so they can defend, but this will give them an extra set of mediums in comparison to everyone else for the feature race.
Interesting, absolutely, yeah. So they could be opening up that medium stint, that double stop, double medium strategy potentially for the feature, as you rightly point out. So 0.4 of a second is the gap to the leader from Merckx behind in second. 0.7 further back is Jasper, but DRS will be enabled shortly, and the drivers will have it equipped on the cars on the way through out of the Lesmo pair of corners and into Ascari, then down into Rettifilio. No major change or battling going on. A lot of drivers here, I suspect, JP, waiting for that DRS to come into effect.
Yeah, unfortunately one of those drivers that will not be getting any DRS is Tirac. He spun through the Parabolica, so it's a bit of a shame for the Alpine there. But yeah, a lot of people waiting for the DRS. I mean, the first person, there's going to be 2 people here at the moment, which is Nick and Ryan. Although Ryan just about getting under that second to Speed Queen, which is going to help him get some DRS. We're going to have one massive DRS train here, and Nick's at the front of it.
He is. He hasn't managed to gap the field by enough just yet, and that's interesting because normally his first couple of laps are absolutely stellar. So he's keeping his powder dry a little bit, or reserving, bringing those mediums in gently. I'm not quite sure how to judge it just yet, but unusual to see Nick be hounded to such an extent here at the end of lap 3, and Merckx is right hot on his tail.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Nick tends to use ERS very early. I mean, is it a case that he's actually trying to save DRS here, because he's going to want it to defend around here. It's not easy to break away ARL in the pits, I suspect, for some damage. Merckx does look down the inside of Nick, but just thinks better of it on this occasion. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Nick's maybe trying to save some ERS to really go on the defensive in the last three laps or so.
Yeah, it certainly bears out if you look at the front 2 and their ERS deployment so far. They are very evenly matched right now. So Merckx staying within 0.4 of a second, just about, as they head down towards the Lesmos. It will stretch out slightly, and then of course the rubber band effect of the DRS will take effect for him and bring him closer as they head towards Ascari once again. The laps tick down super quick. We're almost halfway through the race already, as it's Nick, Merckx, Jasper and Ghost, your top 4. Speed Queen right hot on the heels of Ghost here at the moment as well, and catching at this stage.
Yeah, obviously we know Ghost is nicer, or one of the drivers who can keep tyres in a good window and good wear rate. So it would be interesting to see what her pace is at the end of this race. But I think what we're seeing here is that the softs, whilst at the start they're quite powerful here, as time's going on, they're starting to wear out, and we've kind of
here we go for the lead then.
Inside. Down inside the Rettifilio, a little bit of contact. It's still close, just about a car's width given. Both of them are going to be slow out with the chicane, which is going to allow Jasper right on the gearbox of the Red Bull, but Nick just about fending off the Red Bull. Merckx will be looking to set up into the Della Roggia potentially. Pulls out to the inside, just not quite there though. Not quite far enough alongside, so his next chance will be Ascari.
Yeah, and they have all slowed. In the meantime, Cameron has got himself up past Reshka and Ryan de Pevine, up into 6th place already. Cameron underlining just what kind of pace he can unlock when he gets that clean air and successful moves up the field. But let's keep an eye on the battle for the point paying positions here in the sprint, as Nick has got a real job on his hands now to hold off the DRS train behind him.
Yeah, through a sky there. Obviously, Merck's not quite as close as he was on the last occasion, although he is now starting to close in. And this is going to be interesting because it won't be the end of the road if Nick loses his place at this stage of the race, because he's got obviously plenty of laps left to gain it back. But as we know, no driver likes to lose a position, regardless of the situation.
Absolutely. Well, Merckx has the DRS profit in terms of the top 5 at the moment, and Cameron would love to get in on this. He's currently got a near 2.5-3 second gap to the back of Speed Queen. So Ghost and Speed Queen need to stay with this group and not fall into the clutches of Cameron Searle, because later in this short sprint they will suffer with that additional tyre wear shortly. But heading down, it looks like we're locked in battle at the moment with this DRS train. Any move from Ryan at the back, who was the closest to another driver, but no way through just yet. It is Nick, Merck, Jasper, Ghost, Speed Queen, as it was for since sort of midpoint of lap 1. But Merck looking strong.
Yeah, he's in the DRS, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to capitalise on this at the moment. The wings, I do wonder what sort of wings everyone's running, because obviously around Monza you're not going to run very high wings, but it's whether those, for example, Merckx might have maybe 1 or 2 clicks more on the rear to keep it more settled. Obviously that does mean you're probably a mile an hour or two, a little bit slower down the straights.
Yeah, he's pretty close now though. It'll depend on electrical deployment, I think, as to whether he can get there. You can see visibly riding on board with Merckx that Nick is using his ERS because he pulls away at a certain point down that long straight. Ryan de Pevine is challenging Reshka. So Reshka has moved backwards slightly, losing out to Cameron and Ryan de Pevine in the last couple of laps, and under a quarter of a second is this battle for the lead.
Yeah, I think there's softs for Reshka, maybe just coming to the end of their performance advantage life there. Yeah, Merckx, he's got to be patient, Merckx, but he's only got 2.5 laps now to make this move happen. But obviously, you still have to require that patience to not have an incident yourself.
Yeah, and it's not like you can spend lap after lap building the pressure on the car in front either. Those laps tick down so quickly. Merck then very close as they approach Ascari, but no way through. ARL is suffering right down at the back with Martin, so the Ferraris together right at the back. But let's focus then. Continue to focus on this battle at the front. Jasper has come right into this and stretched away from Ghost by over a second now. So it looks like we've got all 3 podium sitters within a second of each other as they go to start lap 8.
Now close enough. He's closing. Goes to the inside once again. A little bit of tyre contact, but it's still fair game at the moment, and Nick once again fends off the red ball. And
it looked like it was marginally, it was just about still Nick's corner there.
I mean, you get the feeling that Merck's going to have to make this move at the Della Roggia and almost surprise Nick Houston, but just if he fights him through turn 1, he won't get the run in through Curva Grande.
Absolutely, and it looks like Nick has marked his cards at least as to how he's going to defend through Rettifilio. You do need extreme cooperation to make it through Rettifilio side by side, but perhaps less so on the approach to somewhere like Ascari, which is coming up now. If you can get the inside line, you can claim that corner quite well, but that is the biggest problem I find with Monza, JP, is that every overtaking opportunity has a switchback element to it.
It does, and Ryan getting Owen on the way up to Ascari there. It's the 2 T2 drivers having a nice little battle for 9th at the moment. Everyone has got a switchback element to it. Ascari probably the only one that doesn't really have a switchback element because of the way the corner is. you're always carrying pace to drift you out into the wide part of the corner. But there comes Merckx again. Once again, he goes to the inside on this final lap. He's halfway alongside, and Nick Houston claims the corner once again, as he has absolutely every right. Cameron alongside Speedqueen. This is for 5th, so this is for a point in this sprint race. So Cameron has battled
Merck going for it. He's positioned on the outside on the entry into the Della Roggia, and again Nick Houston putting up a staunch and very effective defence there, and it cut back to Cameron versus Speedqueen, and Cameron has triumphed up to 5th place. I didn't think that was on the cards.
No, he had a good run out of turns 1 and 2 through the Curva Grande. So from the back of the pack, Cameron saw now getting a point in this sprint race, but I fear Merckx kind of he tried to fight that a little too hard in the Della Roggia. I think he probably could have braked a bit earlier and got a better exit down towards Lesmo 1, but he's still got one more chance at Parabolica.
He has, and both of them draining the battery here. You can see both of them on the absolute the last couple of percent here on the battery, but it will be Nick Houston coming out of the final corner. The Parabolica brackets Alboreto to win the sprint in great fashion here. Nick completes the fantastic pole to lights, pole to flag victory. That is a 9-lap sprint then for Nick, Merckx, Jasper, Ghost and Cameron Searle to score points. Speedqueen in the worst place to finish, the first of the non-points finishers, unfortunately. And there we have it. That was your sprint.
Are still going at it at the back. Martin and ARL are still having a good go at it. I mean, these two aren't... obviously ARL is a reserve, as is Martin. Martin, a T2 driver. But these two are going at it tooth and nail as we head down towards Parabolica for the final time. ARL pulls to the inside, thinks better of it, so it looks like Martin's going to get 13th after all of this, although ARL going to try and keep it closer. Short away to the line, bit of ERS, can he get there on the line? The answer is no. I think 1.02 it goes in favour of Martin.
Tremendous battle at the end to make sure they get themselves on the stream at some stage. Daryl Whiffin says there's only one way to overtake in turn 1, and that's 300 mile an hour down the inside. Cameron Searle secures driver of the sprint. We couldn't really say driver of the day at this point, but he gets driver of the sprint, and all the points that are not what is scored on screen. We have a different points set up here at IRL, but JP, that's our sprint results.
Yeah, so this is the grid for the feature race. Nick Houston will line up alongside Merckx, Jasper and Ghost row 2, Cameron Searle and Speedqueen row 3, row 4 Ryan and Reshka, row 5 Owen and Ryan, row 6 Luke Bailey and Tirek, row 7 the two Ferraris of Martin and ARL. The way the points work, Nick gets 5 points, Merckx 4, Jasper 3, Ghost 2, Cameron Searle 1. And in terms of the championship, after the sprint, that means Nick Houston will now have a 6-point lead, and Cameron is now 9 behind Ghost, so the points go 105, 99 and 90.
Fantastic live points updates. How'd you like that? Brilliant stuff. And AJ saying ARL saying he got tapped in the rear into turn 1 and had floor damage for the race, probably explaining his woes. Yeah, Scotty's here to cheer on Cameron as usual, and Cameron had a good ascendancy through that sprint race, giving himself a great foundation here, JP, to really challenge at the front.
Yes, yeah, it was a good recovery from a very poor one-shot qualifying. I think Cameron will be disappointed with his qualifying, but it was a good fight back through the field there. So I don't think he'd be too unhappy with that.
No, getting a point out of the sprint and being on row 3 to start should be a good position for him, especially given his underlying speed. And it's going to be Cameron versus Nick really here, by reading the tea leaves in the sprint race at least, and whether Merckx and Ghost can have anything to say about that may depend on strategy potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about the mediums earlier. So the way the tire allocations will work is that if you've used the mediums in the sprint, you can still use them, but they will be a used set. You only get one fresh set of mediums and a fresh set of hards,
Mm.
plus all of the set of softs you carry over from your qualifying, which the all the drivers should have. I think two sets of fresh soft tires with them. But it's potentially why the McLarens went with the softs, is to give them that second set of brand new medium tyres, because that gets carried over, as far as I'm aware.
Absolutely. Well, unusual for Ghost in the driver chat, getting a little bit animated and a little bit upset about something that went down in the race. I didn't see anything that really affected Ghost particularly. JP, anything you can read from that?
I will have a look, because I haven't actually seen his message yet. I'll have a look and let you know my
Well, I wasn't going to
thoughts.
read it word for word because it's not for
No, no,
for
no, no,
public
no, no.
broadcast, but it's something that I'm surprised to see Ghost get that excited. Anyway, top five should be very, very tasty, as Scotty says. Lights are on, and it's time to drop the clutch and go from the start. Nick Houston again with a good drag away from the initial bite, and Merckx now fighting and trying to hold off Jasper with a little wiggle as Ghost looks to find some room down the inside, but no way through there. One car all the way round and taking the Vettel route across the infield. It's the Haas of Jasper, so exit Jasper from this particular battle as Speed Queen, Cameron Searle and Ryan move up, and it's Nick, Merckx and Ghost away from the Retafilio, JP.
Yeah, and it looks like Speed Queen was looking to maybe make a move on Ghost on the outside of the Della Roggia chicane, but obviously backing out of that one. Once again, though, very, very clustered start into turn number one. Lots of people trying to get space and track position, but Nick's made a good start for now. Obviously, Cameron behind Speed Queen, so it's the top five have had pretty good starts to stay about where they are. See, Speed Queen the one to have made positions up at the start there, as well as Ghost up one.
Yeah, and more successful start here for everybody in the field. ARL at the back, just 1.2 seconds behind the penultimate placed Martin, but Nick getting a decent gap here on Merckx, the kind of gap he wasn't able to pick up. Here comes Cameron though, out of Parabolica, has already got the jump on Speed Queen. Presumably that's with the aid of some ERS deployment, but also Speed Queen may have been slow coming through the Parabolica because Ryan is going down the inside here. Speed Queen will try and go side by side, but Ryan with just the nose sufficiently ahead to keep that move. Great move there. And also Owen passing Reshka in a very similar fashion around the outside through the second part of the Retafilio chicane, and it's game on.
Yeah, absolutely. ARL's day's gone from bad to worse. He's back in the pits. Oh, as Owen has a big switch through the Della Roggia chicane, and that's going to be places lost. He just lost the back end a little bit through the first part and down to 11th. So Owen's going to have to rebuild from there. But yeah, ARL's day going from bad to worse. I'm guessing more damage for him in the start of this race.
So we saw what happened to Jasper. We get a quick look at what happened to ARL potentially. But it's hard tyres on the cars for Nick, for Merckx, for Speed Queen and Jasper. Luke Bailey as well. The rest of the field going for the medium tyres here. Is the hard tyre a decent race tyre here around Monza, JP?
It's not a bad tyre choice. I mean, as Tirak and Ryan having a bit of a battle. Tirak around the inside of the Parabolica gets that move done. Nicely done by the Alpine. Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad tyre to have. However, you are relying that there isn't going to be such as Jasper down the inside of Speed Queen into turn one. Pretty easy move and textbook really. Just down the inside, get it turned in, job done.
Very interesting to see Speed Queen struggling to bring those tyres into temperature, presumably going long in the race. There was a yellow flag temporarily there on the circuit, but Cameron Searle is catching Ghost as well for that third place. Ghost trying to get this continuous run of podiums and try and keep his hand in on the championship battle, but Nick Houston at the moment is head and shoulders above the majority of the field. Only Merckx able to stay with him at this stage, although before DRS has been enabled this time, Nick has managed to get a gap.
Yes, it's that's Luke Bailey has lost it out of the Lesmo 2. We have a virtual safety car for now. And this is the one thing that hard runners do not want to happen. It might be slightly too early for a change, but the hards will probably do 20 laps. As I say that, Cameron Searle's in the pit. I think they will do 24 based on what I know wear-wise.
Interesting.
I think they will, again, they won't be very pretty at the end, but I think they will just about do 24 laps. And obviously this is...
It's worth taking that cheap pit stop.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Quick thinking from Cameron then. Yeah, quick thinking for Cameron. Whether anybody else decides to go the same way, of course, being stuck behind the traffic here in Monza, less of a problem in a circuit like Monza. So long, JP, as the field opens up, by the time you come to overtake them. Of course, if everyone stays in that DRS train we saw at the start stages of the sprint, it's going to be incredibly difficult for someone on new tyres to get past everybody. But as long as they stay with them, and they all have to pit, of course, at least once, then Cameron should be able to close back on the rest of the field. DRS has been re-enabled, so we've gone back into a green flag condition. Speed Queen with a good restart on the back of Jasper here. Draws alongside. Jasper defends to the middle on the way into Ascari and successfully holds off Speed Queen. It was good defensive positioning, nice early and definitive move there from Jasper.
Yeah, Merckx is within DRS range now after that virtual safety car. Remember, even though everyone's to the same delta, obviously there is a slight bit of variation as to how you manage that delta. So you can gain or lose a little bit. And Merckx, with that DRS, you'd like to think he might.
Wow, look at Speed Queen's overspeed coming down the start-finish straight. That is far easier than we saw in the sprint. Speed Queen with a great overtake, complete before the braking zone.
Yeah, that just shows the advantage of DRS when the car ahead doesn't have it around here. I mean, most of these cars probably doing about 215, 216, maybe 217 mile an hour with the DRS is only about 204, 205 with DRS closed.
Yes.
However, I think Jasper's just had a bit of a desync issue because he's suddenly now down to 8th.
That is interesting. Maybe that will pick up again for him soon. But at the front, it's half a second between Nick Justin and Merckx. Now, this could be around the strategic deployment of ERS or not, as it were, from either driver. I won't spoil anything for anybody audibly in case they're listening. But it's less equal than it was in the sprint, at least, that deployment. And Merckx has suddenly caught Nick Justin, has managed to get in the DRS range, and not only will he be able to bring his top speed up, JP, he'll also be able to harvest a bit more effectively. Yes,
it's always easier to keep your ERS if you're in DRS range, especially around here. It's not, as I say, that Tirac has gone past Reshko, so Jasper's gone past Owen. Ryan trying to make a move as well, but not quite happening. Yeah, it's a weird circuit, this, because as I think Reshko came back at Tirac actually for Curva Grande. Got a good exit out of the Rush affiliate, and side by side, Della Rossi chicane. Just a little bit of a squeeze from Tirac.
Yeah, Reshko almost had to stop, didn't he?
Yeah, it's the problem when you try and get around the outside of the Della Rossi chicane. The cars will always wash out. So it's always do have that risk, and being on the inside, Tirac did kind of have the corner for himself. Well, not so to himself, but it was his corner as Owen on the back of Jasper.
It's very frantic there in the battle for 6th. Tirac, Reshka, Jasper, Owen, all in the mix. Good to have SGML, who has joined us, so good evening to you as well. Let us know who you're cheering for. or if you've yet to find a new favourite, that's also important. Gap to leader then for Cameron Searle, 24.5 seconds, JP. Is he in range here to get himself up onto that podium battle after the pit stops?
I think it's a... don't quote me on it, but I think it's about, I want to say 23 to 25 seconds.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure exactly the number.
So he's right on the bubble at this stage then.
So he is right on the bubble and potentially within. Because what we have to bear in mind is even though Merck has DRS, obviously Nick does not. So Nick is still running at similar speeds to Cameron at this point of the race.
True enough. Merck then is under half a second away from Nick Justin. I don't know that he's going to make a significant inroads here. Jasper on Reshka through the Lesmos. Very unusual to see a successful overtake going into Lesmo 1, but Jasper just about got that one cleanly done and a successful move there.
Made that move out of the De La Rogia chicane. Obviously, he must have made Reshka defend to the point that he was slow out of the De La Rogia, and Jasper, good run out of it to do Reshka before the entry of Lesmo 1. So good racing from Jasper, especially after, I would say, an unusual desync. That's kind of put him further back than where he should be, really.
Excellent. Well, Merck then just 0.4 of a second away and closing. I don't think he'll be quite within range, but he's making a little show in the mirrors of Nick Justin at this stage. It's lap 8. We're almost 1/3 distance into the feature race, and it's flying by as usual here in Monza. Only one significant slowdown event has occurred. That is Luke Bailey causing the VSC. Cameron Searle is out of position because he chose to pit early on and has put the hard tyres on very, very early and is expecting them to run for about 24 laps, we think, overall. And he didn't get a full safety car period for them to go through a heat cycle or to extend their life at all. It was only a relatively short VSC period. Merckx now super close. Another bout of DRS for him as he goes underneath the old bank circuit and up towards Ascari and looking for a way through. It doesn't look though like Nick is going to succumb to a pressure build up here, JP. I think he's going to have to actually go for a move.
Yeah, and one thing they got to look out for here, Ghost is slowly creeping this gap. He's gradually getting that down towards DRS range, so I don't think he's going to have DRS on this occasion. I think obviously the detection is just on the entry to Parabolica.
Right.
So he's not going to have it on this occasion, but you see Ghost is gradually closing that gap. Which, not unusual on the mediums, but you'd say he kind of should have been closing that a bit earlier on those tyres, but maybe he's just saving them a little bit.
Absolutely. Reshka did go down the order, but he's staying with Jasper and with Tirak further back. Ryan is also on the cusp of a move against Owen, potentially, but obviously we're focusing on this battle for the lead as Nick versus Merckx round 2 tonight continues, and will Merck get the better of Nick this time round in the feature race where the bigger points are on offer?
That is the $1 million question, that is, in the race. We go down towards the sky once again. Again, Merck just not quite close enough. I think if he wants to make a move, he's going to want to be about 3/10 behind at the most against Nick coming out from Lesmo 2. He just can't quite get alongside. And Ghost, will see, on this occasion has dropped a little bit of time, so
it very much looked like Nick is running absolute minimal wings. His top speed is pretty impressive here, especially when Merckx is deploying the ERS and the DRS at the same time. He can't get super close or make the pass work, so he's going to have to go for a significant braking manoeuvre and try and position the car towards the apex almost of turn 2 of each of the 2 first chicanes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've just had a little look in the IRL pad, and Merckx is about 8 miles an hour quicker with the DRS compared to Nick. Nick getting about 208 at the top end of his car, and Merckx about 216 at the moment. As Nick actually just had a slight lock-up going into the De La Rogia chicane.
Wow.
I think it was on the unloaded front left tyre, but so it wasn't too bad, but
signs though that Merckx is pushing Nick and that Nick is human because you might have mistaken him for a bot here tonight after it's been absolutely impeccable to this stage throughout tonight's racing.
Well, I think his showing over the last 4 or 5 weeks, Ryan the first to pick up a time penalty for track infringements. His displays over the last 4 or 5 weeks from Nick have been just absolutely stunning, really. I mean, granted, we have been denied a couple of good battles with Cameron due to some technical difficulties, but nonetheless, he's been there all the times, Nick.
Definitely. Well, 0.4 of a second, 4.5 for Merck is traditionally too far back, but he's got a good speed. He just wants another show in the mirrors. Just try to make Nick look in his mirrors when he approaches a braking zone. I think is the attempt here, so that he misses his braking zone slightly, or is in two minds as to whether to defend or not, and that can put a driver just that fraction offline, JP, and open up a traction-based attempt that we've seen through Curva Grande and into then the Della Roggia.
Yeah, Merck's almost trying where he can get alongside. He's trying to make Nick defend fresh air here.
Yeah.
It's a very cool, big, I think a bit of a twitch with Nick and Merck coming out of level 2. But yeah, it's not an uncommon tactic to try and get people in the mirrors, try and make them defend fresh air, because if they're defending fresh air and you're on the racing line, you're going to have a lot more pace on the corner exit. So, but Nick currently not falling for that at the moment.
No, but Merck getting very close now, getting a better run through Ascari. So you fancy his chances if he can get on the brakes level with Nick. He does have a little bit of extra speed, and that also feeds into sort of perhaps evidence that Nick is running lower wings here than Merckx. And Merckx has not been quite this close before. He's getting to just about 0.2 of a second, less than 0.2 of a second. He's definitely close enough to have a go, but doesn't want to risk it all at this stage on a low percentage move. Ryan, the first of the regular scheduled pit stops in operation, and let's see. I'm assuming Cameron is going to be able to get the underlap.
Yeah, I think Jasper just got past Tirak into turn 1. So Cameron does go past Ryan in the end. So Jasper up to 5th place now on the road. Interesting to see how he can progress now, because he's just under a second behind Speed Queen. Meanwhile, I can tell you both obviously Merckx and Nick were on the ERS button on that main straight, because Nick was up to 213 miles an hour. Nick was 213. Merckx was up to about the 220 region.
Wow. Tremendous info there from your secret sources, JP. Very good to have you with that resource. Nick Houston then still leading this race into lap 12, and we'll start to see the medium runners slowly pick off into the pits now, but the hard runners can afford to go another 3, 4 or 5 laps, and onward we go then. Merckx just 4.5 away as Ghost comes into the pits. Cameron was about 25 seconds, so hasn't gained or lost particularly from the leader over the course of his stint to this point, but I think he's going to be right in that slot between 3rd and 4th.
As he Ghost onto a set of hard tyres, as others are going on to now. Question is, where's Cameron? Where does he filter out? Ghost just exiting the pits now. Cameron is going to get in front of him, but that says to me that Cameron is not going to get Merckx or Nick if he's just come out just ahead of Ghost there. So Cameron, I'd have to say, is probably a net P3 right now, depending on what happens with the battle of Nick and Merckx, and if they start holding each other up. Yeah,
so that does give credence to the thought that it's about a 24-second pit stop as he's managed to undercut Ghost, but he's got a bit of a job on his hands towards the end of this stint to hold off Ghost, who will have far fresher hard tyres, although the delta between himself and Ghost will be far less than if it were a different compound, of course. Merckx 1/4 of a second as they go into Parabolica. Staying within about 0.3 then on the way out. Just the concertina effect just taking effect there on the car, and not willing to drain the battery too much. I think wary here that too much battling between the two of them will bring this into more than a 2-horse race.
Yeah, obviously now with Ghost and Cameron on their own little charges per se. Tirat comes in the pits. Reshka stays out. I would expect Nick and Merck in at around about, I suspect, probably around lap 16, 17. They might stretch it to 18, obviously courtesy of the virtual safety car.
Yeah.
That is roughly where I'd expect them to be coming in for their medium tyres, unless they decide to stretch it so far that they go straight onto the soft compound.
That would be critical later on, although I would imagine that the gap will open up further, will actually shrink, while the main rivals, Cameron and Ghost, who are racing them, will be on better conditioned tyres. Particularly Ghost here will have a higher performing tyre at this stage of the race if they try to go long. They'll be monitoring that gap to the best of their ability, but it's very difficult, JP, to monitor a gap that you can't see beyond that. There's immediate positions next to them as Nick goes into the pits, so he has decided to blink first, wary of being undercut by Merckx, and really these two focusing on each other here, and not on running too long against Cameron, Searle and Ghost, it looks like.
Yeah, I think Nick's probably seen that people have done 13, 14 laps on these mediums, and has decided actually he wants to get rid of the hards as early as possible, get on the mediums.
Yeah.
And try and undercut, but obviously now he's got to get these tyres warmed up, and around Monza it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do is to get tyres warmed up, because there's not many high-speed corners around here, if you think about it. It's one chicane followed by Curva Grande, then another chicane, and then the Lesmos, really, where the first part where you're going to get some good warmth in your tyres.
Absolutely. Well, he's got about 2 seconds to play with here, which isn't a lot. It's not super comfortable for Nick with Cameron close behind, but he is crucially underneath 24 seconds away from Merckx, who is unable to really drop the hammer in a significant way here and put in a hell of an in-lap, because he's on so much older hard tyres. Whether he decides to drain the battery or not, clearly Nick has used but not abused his electrical deployment at this stage, so he is absolutely trying to fight with Merckx here, but in a battle they can't see.
Yeah, Merckx in the pits. Obviously, it depends what sort of HUD they're using. If they've got the mini-map like we normally do in the comms box with that full map, they can, to a degree, monitor the gap. They can see where they are on track.
Wow,
Nick
Justin, like scything around the outside of Martin there.
Here comes Merckx. Out of the pits he comes. There's Nick Justin. This is going to be close, but I think Nick's going to get him.
Yeah, he's just reached VMAX just that little bit earlier, and it is battle resumed exactly where it was before. 1 lap pitting difference, but these two are absolutely locked together, JP, for the rest of this race, I suspect.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight now. Obviously, Merck's got to get those tyres up to temperature, so he's not going to be getting onto the back of Nick just yet, but he will certainly want us to be sticking in that DRS gap at the moment. Reshka, the last man to make his mandatory pit stop. I wonder what his strategy is. Obviously, the McLaren's in the fight for the constructors, and after the sprint race, they are just 4 points behind Alpha Tauri. 124 plays 120, and Alfa Romeo on 112, not too far behind either.
What's also interesting is a little bit further back, Ghost has retaken Cameron Searle on those fresher tyres, and perhaps most interesting of all, he says with a heavy dose of sarcasm, Ghost has used some ERS before the halfway point of the race.
Yeah, obviously Ghost well known last season for not using his ERS, but I think it's a completely different ball game this season, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
I mean, he did have a lot of competition last season, but the competition this season is even more fierce, and with Ghost not at the front all the time, obviously having to deploy ERS here and there. He's still got Cameron right on his tail, though.
He absolutely has. Cameron really closed up on that last lap, but Ghost did get the move done. Merckx is back within that 0.4 of a second window behind Nick Jewston, and Reshka currently holds the lead because Reshka is the longest stop out on 16 lap old tyres. He has really made those work very well for him, but I don't think he's going to, well, maybe he could get within range of doing this as a medium soft run, JP. We did see the softs run for 9 laps without major problem in the sprint.
Yeah, I'd say he wants to get another couple of laps out of this, just to only give himself 8 laps of the soft tyre to make sure he doesn't burn them right at the end. But
again, Merck super strong through Ascari. I'm sure you're about to say that.
Yeah, practically pushing Nick almost down the straight. But again, Nick just has that little better traction coming through parabolic and just get on the throws. And Reshka releases them now as he comes into the pits. We know the slot tyre he puts on. But this isn't a bad just not quite closing enough to get the move done. I was going to say he's a bit closer than beforehand, he still can't quite get the move. But Reshka, as you say, Webbo, soft tyres.
Brilliant. Very good to see a different strategy in play. Reshka obviously made those mediums last a decent spell, so you'd fancy his chances for making the softs run very well indeed. Merck, I think, this might be his main attack lap right now. He's using some electrical deployment and he's sticking like glue to the back of Nick Jewston. Is Nick Jewston up to the challenge of holding off Merck for so many laps now? It's going to be in the region of 36 consecutive laps that Merck has piled on the pressure on the back of Nick Jewston, with very little by way of any kind of micro mistakes coming in. We've seen one solitary lockup, I think, as again coming through Ascari. Merck was strong, but Nick Jewston was equal to it. Now, will that mean that Merck has held on to a little bit of ERS and is going to change the game a little bit, JP? He needs to switch up the strategy a bit here in terms of his deployment.
Yeah, I think the problem Merck's got here at the moment is he's strong through Ascari. Almost every time they come to a DRS zone, Merck just struggles with a little bit of traction off the corner prior to the DRS, and it means Nick can just open up the gap just enough to defend. And it's so hard around here to make almost like a natural overtake without the driver ahead of you making a mistake. Well, DRS is crucial, but Merck just can't quite seem to get the drive off the correct corners here.
No, and it's a narrow old school circuit as well. It's if the defending driver wants to use the middle of the road, it's very difficult to find a way by cleanly, at least around here, with a predictable positioning of the car. Merck again sticking close, but has been closer than this, so perhaps just taking it easy for a lap or two, just trying to have in mind what his strategy is going to be as they come towards the final third of our race. It is Nick, Merck, Ghost, Cameron Searle, Ryan, Jasper, Speed Queen, Tirac, Reshka and Owen, your top 10 at the end of lap 19.
And Reshka looking for a move on Tirac up to Ascari, gets that done very nicely on the entry with the DRS. And he should pull a nice little healthy gap here with the grip that those softs are going to offer at this point in the race. So that's working out quite nicely for him. Merck once again, quarter of a second going into corner one, and just again he's going to be able to draw the back of the Alfa Romeo by memory. The way this is going, he stared at pretty much nothing else for every lap.
Unfortunately, in the 2022 iteration of the cars, a lot of the back of the cars look very similar, with the exception of the sponsor on the back wing. They didn't divert a great deal in terms of diffuser and rear wing, especially not when they're on equalised performance. But nonetheless, I absolutely take your point. Merck still with the DRS, and Nick will struggle to even find his DRS button if he ever gets it tonight.
Yeah, and Reshka and Tirac still going at each other. And Reshka just holding on for now, although you feel through the Lesmos and up to Ascari, this is where Reshka should kind of just pull a little bit more out of the Alpine, which he does. Obviously, Speed Queen not far away from Jasper. And,
now this is strong. This is strong from Merck. He's hooked straight up into the slipstream very early. Got really close into the Parabolica and out of it. Which way does he go? He's going to manage to try and claim the inside. How close does he get? He just isn't confident enough on the brakes relative to Nick Jewston, who braked last of the late breakers and just managed to get the car stopped to the apex. Brilliant defence again from Nick Jewston, and this time on the racing line as well.
Yeah, he just gave Merck a little squeeze coming up towards the braking zone, absolutely allowed, gave him a car's width, and Merck decided that he just wasn't quite enough alongside to claim the corner, or enough to claim that he should still be alongside. So it's smart from Merck. He's making sure he plays it safe because he knows he's got a second in the pocket here. And whilst you do want to go for the win, you don't want to jeopardise a podium, because that is some strong points as he comes up to Ascari. And again, he's not going to be close enough into Ascari.
No, he's quite clean through here. I was expecting him actually to brake later than Nick, in as you can from the inside. You can afford to brake that tiny bit later, albeit with the being on the dirty side of the track. But he braked just that fraction of a second slightly earlier than Nick, who was willing to go toe-to-toe, and they will have to continue doing that. It's only lap 21 off 27. Merckx a little bit further away this time, so it will be a dive bomb if it's anything. I don't think it will be a dive bomb though. He's looking for a look down the inside, and this is an indication perhaps that Nick is very, very low on ERS, as they both lock up ever so slightly under rotation on the unloaded front tyre, as they both manage to dance on their tiptoes on the way into that first chicane.
Yeah, and to some degree this could be very strategical here from Merckx, by potentially just not overtaking Nick just yet. As you say, with ERS, obviously we're not going to hand out any figures or that, but if he's making Nick use his ERS more, Nick could find himself very vulnerable come the end of this race, especially if Merckx in the same position as he has been in the last couple of laps. So it's a very strategical game of chess at the moment in terms of ERS usage, I think.
It is trying his hardest to keep Nick Jewston guessing and to keep him pressing that ERS deployment, and every mini attack, every almost pass is going to make Nick just press that ERS that fraction sooner down that back straight, that main start finish straight, and bring him within that opportunity slightly later on, especially as he can reharvest that fraction earlier and better using the DRS. Well, they both deploy slightly coming down the start finish line. The reason I'm displaying it, I don't usually display it, is because it is such a big factor, JP, of this particular battle that we are watching, as just that electrical energy is pretty much the only tool that they've got available to them, apart from driving style and setup that's already kind of fixed, to try and win this race tonight.
Yeah, weird move there from Merckx. He decided to fill the mirrors with Nick Jewston, even though he was about 3.5 tenths behind. And if you're not careful, that compromises your corner entry as you drift back to the racing line into the braking zone. But obviously Merckx trying a lot of things. I mean, the only thing he can do is flash us some headlights, because these cars don't have any.
No, I feel sure he would be doing that if he had headlights to flash. He goes to the inside again on the way towards Ascari, and you're right, in trying to put off the driver in front, you can inadvertently put yourself off. So you've got to be careful and make sure that you're back onto the racing line early. Now this is a good run through Ascari. If he can keep close again, he'll be just about where he found himself previously. It is underneath 3/10, which is the golden number, I think, on the way out of Parabolica, as the time will drop off dramatically now that they've reached VMAX here. Here goes right round the outside, then looking for that better grip as Nick Jewston brakes earlier. They go side by side and they make contact. Merckx pushed slightly onto the inside. I'm not sure there was always a car width to the inside, but he held it and he's keeping going, and he might even be on the attack in Della Roggia.
Yeah, he's into the inside of the Della Roggia chicane, and all very close. Nick cuts the corner on the right hand side, and Merckx goes through.
How do you like that? That is being on the receiving end of a certain set of treatment and then giving it straight back. Brilliant stuff. If you can dish it out, you better be ready to take it, says Merckx, and it's blasting off into the lead now.
Yeah, that's I think the drivers might have a bit of an interesting conversation about that one later. I can assure you of that. But obviously now, the shoe's on the other foot. Nick Justin one now, chasing and playing the role of the hunter. The question is though, does he have enough, or does he have not enough downforce to make that car quicker than Merckx with that DRS to try and get that advantage again?
Yeah, we know he's got a good top speed because JP's been monitoring that top speed through down towards the first corner, but it is only 3 complete laps to run as Merckx holds on for the first attempt here. And I have to say, my read of that situation was neither driver gave a great deal of space on either of the 2 corners, and they kind of both ended up settling on the racetrack. Now, other people will have a different view, I'm sure, but it seems fair's fair as far as fighting like that is concerned.
Yeah, I don't think either driver wanted to give any call to there. The question is really, and it's something that we can't always see from the commentary cameras, is exactly how far they are alongside each other. Some angles can make it look worse or better than it actually is, so if at the end of the day it depends how far alongside the drivers actually were, but yeah, no driver wanting to give any quarter for this race. And Nick Justin, I think he's pulled about half a tenth on this lap, so he's going to have to do a little better than that at the moment to really start to worry Merckx as we head up towards turn 1 once again out of the parabolica.
Well, those of you watching live with us, let us know what you took from that situation. Bear in mind that it was a 2 overtake attempt. It was the Rettifilio followed by the Della Roggia. For me, that puts everything into context. But here goes Nick Justin having a look down the inside for the first time, and Merck drifting across the racetrack towards a point, heading in the right direction for the first corner. Has that put him offline sufficiently for Nick Justin to have a go into the Della Roggia chicane? Merck is going to be awake to this one as the gap drops underneath 0.2 of a second. Will he go to the inside? There is very little grip on the inside. Just ask Sebastian Vettel that question, but Nick Justin not able to have a go then into Della Roggia this time, and time is running out. We could have a complete battle all the way to the end here, but if honours are shared between the sprint and the feature, that would be a fair reflection of how things have gone. Darryl Riffin says 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. That was kind of my take on it. It was actually Merckx who was slightly sideways going down the inside into the Rettifilio, but managed to save it and came back at Nick Justin. But I'll say everyone will have different opinions, and the stewards may have to look at it, but they'll have far more information than we did in one quick look, JP.
No, absolutely. They're going to get all the angles if required. But I did notice down on the last lap where Nick Justin was so close, Merckx did kind of not actually panic, but he did make a little mistake. He did go a little deep into turn number 1. Yep. And you can see the tyre is actually locking a little bit on entry. Obviously, it is the unloaded tyre, so it's not a massive deal. But obviously, if you start continuously locking a tyre, it can play on your mind a little bit.
Well, it's the fastest. It's the final lap of the race, and Nick Justin is under 10%. Merckx is absolutely not under 10% deployment available to him. So it is advantage Merckx here if he can hold on. The pressure is immense. He's spent so much of this race behind Nick. He's made a successful overtake, whatever your opinion is of that interplay between the two of them, but he's all the pressure on the world is on him. He's managed to deploy some electrical energy coming on the way out of Lesmo 2. This is the last major opportunity for an overtake, at least, into Ascari, and we know that Merck's been strong through Ascari all night long. He manages to hold on. He doesn't invalidate. There's no penalties on the car. Both cars underneath 10% deployment as they head towards the Parabolica. It is can Merck get through without a mistake through the Parabolica? Just about completes this one. They are going to head towards the line, very close to one another, but Merckx is victorious in Monza. Tremendous, tense battle between the two of them as Nick Justin comes home less than 0.6 of a second away. Ghost secures a traditional podium for him, and Cameron Searle, bested by Ghost this time out, into 4th position. Jasper, pretty happy by the looks of things. The Haas crossing the line in 5th, and Ryan completing that 6th position. He drops beneath Speed Queen thanks to the penalty on the car, and Tirak will make 2 Alpines in the top 10. Reshka with a good 9th position as well. He ran as high as first thanks to the some tyre saving, and Ryan picks up the final points of proceedings today, JP. But Merckx, that was a very, very strong showing from Merckx, because we know after the last few races just what kind of form Nick is in.
Yeah, Nick's been in great form. Merckx obviously the only one tonight that's been able to take it to him, and it's fair to say that the battle was all race long, and it, for lack of a better word, definitely got heated on that one particular lap. And from a showman point of view, it was good to watch those two battle extremely hard.
Absolutely. No one came off the circuit in a major way. Nobody lost out or lost parts of the car. Jasper picks up driver of the feature race, and clearly Merckx is going to be very, very happy with that one. I can't remember if we've ever actually managed to successfully speak to Merckx in the post-race conference, but if we can, we would absolutely love to. If he's listening in on the stream or any of his mates are watching, do lean on him if possible. Of course, he's on PC, so he'll need to get the PS app pretty quickly. That is the worst thing Merckx has done all night, and that is the dance on the way to the podium, JP.
Yeah, it's definitely one way of celebrating a win, isn't it?
If I were a steward, I'd be looking at that very dimly, I have to say. But champagne for the Red Bull driver, and Merckx victorious in front of Alfa Romeo's home crowd. The track invasion, not exactly an impressive one by Monza standards, but Ghost picking up that 3rd position once again, and by hook or by crook, he seems to always be there.
Yeah, it's obviously Merckx and Nick were fantastic all race long, but obviously Ghost and Cameron, you can't complain there. I mean, Cameron on that set of hard tyres, 24 laps on a set of hard compound tyres, that's a great effort from him. Obviously Ghost just as consistent as ever, as we always say. It's, consistency's king, but unfortunately Nick Houston continues to just be that little bit further ahead of him.
He does. He got the fastest lap as well. Merck, Nick, Ghost, Cameron Searle, Jasper, Speed Queen, Ryan, Tirak, Reshka, Ryan, Owen, Martin, ARL, and Luke Bailey. Your finishing order at the end of this one, although of course Luke did retire early. We know that Nick has made it into the press conference. I would love to find out whether Merckx is going to come to chat with us. I know that Ghost knows his way here by now, and there he is, in fact, joining straight away. But we'll try and get hold of Merckx, but in the meantime, Nick, that was absolutely breathless. That must have been an incredibly pressureful night's racing for you.
Yeah, it was. It's all about the DRS games, so I was just wondering what was best to stay ahead or be behind. But I think he had just a little bit more pace for the corners, but it wasn't that much. It was just, gaining in the slipstream and DRS. Then you gain a lot of ERS on this track, so I thought I was able to hold him back with ERS. Then I defended into turn 1, and then we collided a bit, which compromised our run. And then he went past me, and I was able to pass him again. My tires were also reaching the puncture mark on the last lap, so I was really struggling for grip.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Okay. It was that marginal, was it?
Maybe I pushed them a little bit too hard because I thought it wasn't that early. But yeah, it is what it is. But I finished ahead of both my championship rivals, so I'm happy with
Absolutely.
That. Did I get the fast lap? Or
you did. You did, according to the game at least. So you maximised that absolutely. Picking up the sprint win as well. Yeah. So you got the 5 points for the sprint, the bonus point for the fastest lap in the feature, and that's a very mature and relaxed view there on that incident. We were loving it here in the commentary box. I have to say it was absolute. Hard and super close racing. I know there was contact made into turn 1. I didn't know if there was contact made through the Della Roggia as well, but it seemed like it was as hard as it gets without someone losing out and losing part of the car.
Yeah, exactly. I have to watch it back, but that second incident, I don't know if he had needed to left me space, but yeah, it is what it is. It was good racing, and I'm still happy with P2, even though
Yep.
P1 was still close.
Absolutely. JP, what have you got for Nick?
I was going to say about obviously your pit stop strategy. Obviously, you were the first one on the hard compounds to blink. It was quite early. Was that just purely because you didn't want Merc to try and undercut, or what was the thinking behind going that early, knowing that the hards had a little bit more left in the tank life-wise?
Yeah, in hindsight, I would have done one lap more, but I was afraid that he would do the undercut on me, and then because I think he had a little bit more pace, like maybe at 10th, he could have kept me behind. But I preferred track position because the battery really comes recharged really quickly, and I therefore thought it was maybe better to keep track position and therefore do the undercut because that obviously works. Because I knew if I wouldn't have gone in that lap, he was definitely gonna come in. So yeah, I think it was at that moment the best call, but. Yeah, maybe because of the tire wear, I should have done one lap later, but I don't know if it would have really made a difference at all.
Now I'm wondering whether we've had a slightly higher tire wear, slightly higher temperatures or something, because it's certainly something I've seen another driver complain about already in the chat. So a surprising level of tire wear. It may not just be just how hard you two were pushing each other, but congratulations on a really good haul of points tonight. That obviously stretches your lead at the head of the championship, as you mentioned. We can talk to Ghost now, I think. Ghost, congrats on yet another podium. Looked like, was that another case of the best that was out there for you tonight?
For the feature race, yeah. I couldn't have done better than thirds. If the safety car had come out instead of a virtual one when Luke Bailey crashed, then I might have had a chance to win. But unfortunately it didn't, so I was just stuck where I was. I had good pace in the first stint, but then my tyres on lap 10 or so, I just had like 3 different moments on the same lap on the tyres, and I was wondering what the hell was going on. But they came back to me again in the next couple of laps before I pitted, but the damage was done. I also got a massive lag spike in the braking zone of Lesmo 2, which cost me 8/10, I think. So I would have been in DRS range if it weren't for that, but I wouldn't have been challenging for the win anyway. I might have put pressure on, but other than that, yeah, on pace I was third. But yeah, sprint should have been better though, because of turn 1, but I'll get to that.
Okay.
In the stewards room.
Yeah.
Why did you choose the softs?
To put pressure on you, but then you forced me off at turn 1, so there we go.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, we said we'll have to watch it back and have a look from the perspective of both points of view. It's very easy to get a misleading view, especially as JP pointed out in the stream, that from a commentary point of view, it's very hard to take a read from the trackside cameras. But Ghost, you've come home with good points. I did see at one point Cameron come out of the pits, did he not, in front of you, but you managed to get him back.
Yeah, I think my pace was slightly better than him today. He was sticking in my DRS after I got past, but he dropped off towards the end when I pushed for fastest lap. So, yeah, but it was a close race between us, which was nice. It's a shame that the two of us aren't really drivers' championship rivals anymore. The latter stage of the season, thanks to all his disconnects, but. Yeah, Constructors is still very much on. I think we're equal on points now with AlphaTauri, so
Wow.
That's still very much on. And I think that might be the focus if this keeps happening.
Reshka had a good race as well, actually. Reshka brought
Yeah.
it home in the top 10 and used a different strategy, medium to soft. That worked out well for him. We just heard Cameron saying that he had Owen in his ear every lap asking whether Reshka had pitted yet or not. So that's good info. JP, anything for Ghost at all?
Yeah, well, see, Nick kind of took my original question from the sprint race of the soft compound, but I will say I have obviously I've been doing some calculation work, and I believe, Ghost, that you're now level with the Alpha Tauris in the constructors. The Alpha Romeos are now just 7 points behind you both.
Wow.
Um, do you feel that the constructors, especially if Reska continues to have this run of form where he's scoring points potentially on a regular basis, surely the constructors is something that is very viable for both of you at the moment?
I think that's a big focus for us, yeah, because it would be nice to get a trophy this season. So yeah, it's definitely on the cards. It's very close, but yeah, as long as Reshka keeps picking up the 1 or 2 or 1, 2, 3, 4 points each race, that's going to be well on the cards for us. So yeah, he's doing brilliantly. Yeah, I just got to keep pushing and putting in the podiums, and we can potentially take that. So yeah, the fire is lit for constructors for sure, even if drivers is all but over.
Well, I'm sure you won't really give up on us. I'm sure you'll be pushing to try and get on the top step of the podium before the end of the season, and bring home as many points as possible. You've got to be there when it counts to make the most. We've got 3 races left to run in this fabulous championship. It really has been a very, very entertaining run here, though I'm sure Ghost probably wouldn't agree that it's been as enjoyable this season as the previous one for him. But 3 races to go. I will be sadly missing next week, but back for the final 2. JP will be here, I think, with Sab is scheduled to appear alongside JP in the comms box. But from everybody here at IRL Top Tier and Wednesday nights, make sure you tune into the rest of the coverage in the intervening days, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, but don't miss out on Wednesday nights here at Top Tier for Invictus Racing League. From me, Webbo, from JP, from everybody involved, thank you very much for watching and for hitting that like button on your way out. We will catch you on the next race day.